Shiny web application looks like this. This is a little website that I have that I've created in R, where you have, I don't know, there's some graph, and then you can change the color of the dots. You can change the axis and whatnot. So there's a lot that one can do here. Oops. I can interact with the data exploration via a Shiny object. Now the Shinies have two main parts. They can have more, but the basic Shiny has a sidebar that we can actually collapse or expand, a sidebar, and the main and the rest of the page, right? The rest of the web page. In this case, there's a card. These are drop down, so each component has a name, but at the very core, they have a sidebar and the main portion of the page. The other thing that they have is a front end, so this is how the page looks. But also whenever I change, for example, these variables here, a new computation is performed. So there's two parts to a Shiny. One is the user interface, and the other one is the back end, or also called the server. So we're going to create a basic Shiny page using the concepts of the user interface and the server. Let's do it. So in order to create a Shiny web application, we're going to go to File in R. Then we're going to go to New File, and we're going to look for the file that says Shiny Web App. When we click on that, we're going to give this application a name. So in this case, it's going to be Simplest Shiny. Then, this is going to be a single file app for now. That's the simplest way to do it. And then where do you want to store this Shiny in your computer? You can go browse in your computer, and then you decide where to save it. Okay, I know where this is, so I'm going to create the Shiny app. As you can see, R already gave me a bunch of code. If I run that code, I'm going to have a little app that doesn't do much. It plays with a data set, and it allows me to do different bins on a histogram. But we're not going to use this. We're going to use something even simpler. So once you've created your app.r, your Shiny app, you're going to select everything. So edit, select all, and we're going to delete this. And we're going to go little part by little part. So the first thing that we need is we need to use a library called Shiny that's going to bring a lot of utilities, and also a library called bslib. So I'm going to import those two. If you don't have any of these packages, they will be installed, but these two should come with a modern installation of RStudio. This is basics, and this is also the basics. So these two will give you a lot of commands to work with Shiny. Now, whenever you want to run a Shiny application, you're going to click on Run App. However, if you save this file just now, I just saved it. I went File, Save. You see that Run App is gone. Don't panic. We're going to bring it back very soon. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to load some data. In this case, is dataset from electronic health records from Kaggle. So this is public. This is in the public domain, and it's an artificial dataset. I'm going to load it using the read.csv. We've seen how to load files in other videos, but basically it's read.csv, and then just give it the path where this file is. So we're going to load that data file, and that's going to be our data from the main graph that we're going to have in this page. Then what I'm going to do is remember the two sections, the UI and the server, the user interface and the backend, the server side. I'm going to define the user interface. So in my user interface, I'm going to call it UI for obvious reasons. I'm going to define this UI, and it's first I'm going to define, you remember in the UI there were two sections, the sidebar and the rest of the page. So I'm going to define the sidebar, page sidebar. I'm going to hit enter here. Notice how the parentheses are always balanced. It's hard to lose balance of those parentheses. But everything I want to put on the sidebar is going to go inside those two parentheses. In the sidebar, I want to put an actual sidebar. So I'm going to have a control here that I'm going to call sidebar. And that's going to be a sidebar. And then, so this is repetitive. Just bear with me. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put a drop-down box. So first, we type the name of the control. It's called a select input. Okay, a select input is a drop-down box. I'm hitting enter every time the system open and close parentheses. So that's why you see that the parentheses go to the bottom. The select input, it's going to have a name, an ID. So I'm going to call this input ID, and then I can call it whatever I want. I might call it X. Then a comma. Then it's going to have a label. So what's going to say on the web page? And the label is going to say ethnicity, because I'm going to use an ethnicity value. Oops, and then I need a comma. Then the choices are going to be, whoops, the choices are going to be ethnicity, gender, and unit admit source. Okay, the label is not going to be ethnicity, I'm sorry, it's going to be x-axis. Okay, so what do I have now? What is this ethnicity, gender, and unit admit source? Well, if we load this EHR data, I'm going to run that line. If we load that, I'm going to view it, double-clicking on it. I can see that there's a column called gender, there's a column called ethnicity, and there is a column called unit admit source. There, unit admit source. So what I'm making reference here in my file is that this input is going to have these three choices. But look, the three choices actually match the columns in my data. Why? Because I'm going to use them for something else. Then the last parameter that I'm going to put here is selected. So which one is the default one? Which choice is the default choice? So I'm going to put ethnicity. All right, so I have this. Beautiful. Now, this is the sidebar. Now, after the sidebar, in the rest of the page, I'm going to put a plot. So here's the parentheses for the sidebar. It's this one. So after this one, I'm going to put a comma. It's very important. And then the rest of the page. And that is going to be the main panel, enter. And then in the main panel, I'm going to put a plot. So plot output, you can put a lot of other things in there, but we're going to play with plot outputs. I'm going to put a plot output, and I'm going to name that plot output my bar plot. So let's recap of what we have. We have a sidebar with a drop-down box, and we have a main panel. The sidebar is called X, and the main panel is called, the main plot is called my bar plot. Okay? So this finishes that, and I'm going to just put that together there. Now, I have defined the user interface. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to define the server, and the server is defined a little bit differently. So define the server. So the server, I need to define a variable called server, And server is it's gonna have the following syntax. You're gonna make it a function of input and output. And then you're gonna open curly braces. Hit enter. Inside the curly braces, so between the opening and close of the curly braces, you're gonna say the output. The output is actually the web page. So you're gonna say output, which is my web page, $, my bar plot. So you're saying in the output, look for a component named my bar plot, okay? And what you're gonna do with that, you're going to render plot. That's a command to put plots on components of a web page. And inside the render plot, you're going to do open and close curly braces. Then hit enter. Now here's the code for our plot, okay? So for example, for our plot, what we can do is just to have a bar plot of some data. I don't know, 1, 2, 3, and 5. That's just a bar plot. So now we have a UI, a server, and now we need to put them all together into a Shiny app. So put it in a Shiny app. Let's do it. Let's call it Shiny app. And then the UI is going to be my variable called UI. And the server is going to be my variable called server. What we can do now is run this, save it. So file save. And we see that the run app button came back again. Why? Because I put this command. The minute it detects that there's a Shiny app in here, it's going to put this run app button. So let's run it. And we can see that we have a drop-down box, a select box that has a title, x-axis, and then it has options, and then we have a plot in the middle. Now, what we would like really is this plot to be tied to actions over here. So let's do that. Well, one of the things that I can do, and I'm going to show this in the console now, is that with my EHR data, I can do the following. I can say, table EHR, and then I can select all the rows for the column ethnicity, for example. Right? So if I say table EHR, and this notation means all the rows for column ethnicity, if I run that, I'm going to get a table with all the ethnicities and their counts. These are the values. Now, these are not available. African Americans 162, right? Asian is 20, and so on and so forth. Well, we can use this to actually plot, right? So if I say the same command, but I'm going to save it in a variable called TB, for example, and then I say bar plot TB, I'm going to get a bar plot with the races. I mean, you can't see them all, only 2 are displayed, but if I made this bigger, or if you zoom out, for example, here, then you can see the different races. And if I move them, yeah. So then more races appear as the space allows. But this is the bar graph based on the race. So I can use the same commands for my server, for the processing. So instead of this bar plot that goes nowhere, that's nothing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to create a table with the ethnicity, right? And then I'm going to say bar plot TB. And if I run this app, I have to save it. I'm going to get my control and then a graph by ethnicity. But again, I want to be able to change that column using this drop-down box, this selection. So remember, our selection name is X, right? Our selection name is X. So, and this is our input. our select input, okay? So in my input, I'm going to have, instead of ethnicity, I'm going to say, hey, select from the input, select the variable X, okay? So in the outputs variable, my bar plot, I'm going to render plot. I'm going to create a table based on the input in the variable X on the input. And I'm going to create that bar plot with a table. So I'm going to run the app, save it. And then you see that I have the ethnicity. But then if I want the gender, for example, I'll have male, female, unknown, and not available. I'm going to have unit admit source. There's a lot of admit sources there, okay? So here you have a really quick version of a Shiny. Lastly, what I will say is that when you say Shiny app, okay, when you say server, and server is a function that takes input and output, in the input, R automatically will put this UI. So any aspect of this UI you can refer to by input and $sign and the name, the input ID, okay? And the output is going to be something that makes the web page, right? And you can refer to output and then everything here. The output is the rest of the page, right? So here's the output. This is the output, okay? So you can create variables as long as these variables match and these variables here match, you can refer back and forth to them. We're going to make more complicated Shinies in the next video.